Namaskaram. Welcome back to Urban Philosopher. Continuing with the Gita series, just a quick recap. We are right now in chapter 2, the way of discernment. We saw in chapter 1 how the confused mind of Arjuna, which we can relate to our own minds in the day-to-day world, thinks that he is a big hero and he tries to play the good guy by refusing to do his duty. And finally, he surrenders to his mentor, Sri Krishna, who guides him on to the true nature of who he is, or the true nature of Atman. Okay. So, and how the ego confuses us, and what we should not be bothered about. Okay. And Sri Krishna continues describing the Atman. So we continue from verse 26. If Sri Krishna, the blessed Lord, Sri Bhagavan says, if, however, you think that it, Atman, is perpetually born and perpetually dies, even then, O mighty armed one, you ought not to grieve for it. For to one who is born, death is certain. To one who dies, rebirth is certain. Therefore, over this inevitable fact, you ought not to grieve. So, self-explanatory there. I don't need to give further explanation. There is no need to grieve if you're going to be... Anyway, for everybody who is born, death is certain. Everybody who dies, rebirth is certain. Even if you think that there is no such thing called Atman, or Atman is not eternal, if you think that. Sri Bhagavan continues, verse 28, beings, O descendant of Bharata, have the unmanifest as their beginning, are manifest in the middle, and have their dissolution in the unmanifest itself. So why lament for them? One sees this Atman as a wonder, so also another talks of this as a wonder. Still another hears of this as a wonder, and some other again does not know this even after hearing about it. Well, this very much relates to what most of us are, right? See, we hear all these nice stories of Atman being eternal, and the whole thing starting in unmanifest, and then we manifesting, and then going into unmanifest again. And oh wow, it's a nice thing to do, nice thing to hear, but sometimes we are not actually relating to it. Okay, so why is that so? Because we are tied to this thought that what we are right now in the form of a body and the form of a mind is who we are. Okay, so in the upcoming verses, Bhagavan destroys this concept totally. Okay, as we go on, you will see. This embodied self in everyone's body is eternally indestructible, O descendant of Bharata, which is Arjuna. Therefore, you ought not to grieve for any creature. And considering your duty also, you ought not to falter, because there is no greater good fortune for a Kshatriya or a warrior than a righteous battle. So Bhagavan once again explains that, the actual true nature or identity of all beings with the sense of I or Atman is ever prevalent and indestructible. So what gets destroyed is the body. And hence, there is no sense in grieving for any creature, and more importantly, it's his duty to, there's no greater fortune for a warrior than a good battle. Okay, so while death of the body, death of a relative may not be, we are not always there to kill in everyday life. We are not always there to kill our fellow relatives like Arjuna. But let me give you a relatable scenario. Very often, we fear doing our duty because, we fear the reaction of people. While it is unwise to hurt anyone, it is also unwise to walk away from conflict, or stay away from conflict, stay safe. Okay, so we should relate to this about while Arjuna is grieving for the loss of his relative, we are grieving for the loss of our own ego. What if they mistake me? What if I get hurt? What if I lose my job? What if somebody breaks up with me? What if there's so many what ifs. So if we clearly see something as a duty, if we clearly see something as righteousness, we should not be bothered about these what ifs, because anyway, one day or the other, these things will go. Be it job, be it relationship, be it whatever. These are not permanent. What is the true you is not going to be affected by any of these things. So our duty, is what we should execute at all times. Sometimes it's a little difficult to understand what that duty is. Well, an easy pointer would be whatever we should do without, if the emotions were absent, is what is our duty. Okay, so I know this is a very vast topic. We'll cover it as we go into further verses. I think this is enough for today. I'm finishing with verse 31. Thank you. Jai Shri Krishna.